We're back, folks. It's been far too long. I actually looked earlier today, and I think it was like May 10 or May 11th, somewhere in that range, that I last did a solo. This channel has been very inactive as of late, which probably won't change moving forward, but I might pretend. Um, but the last two things we did on this channel, as successful as they were, it was myself and Ibu of Wrestle Purists, right? We were doing the dance, hanging with Hulbert action, and people loved that. And it was a great, great time. But it's been so long since I did a solo show. So thrilled to be here. I hope everyone is well. Happy Tuesday, right? Tuesday. And we have a lot to talk about. I don't know how much of the stuff we have to talk about I've seen. We're going to try our best here. Questions in the chat, as always. The way it works around here, folks, there is no super chatting or anything of that ilk. Not because I'm generous, just because we're physically unable to do super chats here. So, with that in mind, I just try my best to get to questions in the chat. I work my way through them. If you're new to this program and you ask a question and you wait 20 minutes for me to answer and you're thinking he's missed my question, A, I may have, but B, more likely, I just am actually that far behind. So we'll see how we go here this evening. But most importantly, I hope everyone is doing well and is fired up to talk about professional wrestling. All right, let's see what's happening in the chat. Aiden, JHP. Thank you, Aiden. I hope you're well. The return, the big match. I appreciate the pre-show hype here. Andrew said, "Pop that WWE have cut back on house shows and JHP have also cut back. It's a TV business now. You know, you see the tag there, Operation Get Paid. It's all about rights fees now, unfortunately. The pure house shows is a thing of the past, but I try to do occasional ones here, such as today. These are the games we play, indeed. Very fired up. I appreciate it. All right, here we go. Hey, Joe, thoughts on the New Japan Dome epic between Machine Gun Carl Anderson and Tama Tonga of Bloodline fame? Will a review be coming to the Fame Cage match? Probably not, because I'm only reviewing stuff that I am watching at that time. So if you find my Cage Match profile, whatever I'm reviewing on there is like what I've actually watched. I kind of treat it like a letterboxd style operation, which is very funny and is definitely not the way to use it based on everything we've learned about that site. But there's no real alternative, right? So I can't see myself watching that match, mostly because it would mean I have the New Japan World, and I assume if I have New Japan World, it will be for something that isn't Machine Gun Carl Anderson and Tama Tonga from Tokyo Dome. But I'll say this, I remember liking the match. If you go to latenightgrin.com, we did a watch along for that show. It's a great show, both our show and the Tokyo Dome show, and we like the match. Unfortunately, the match has that very, very rough ending, I think, to put it politely. But I remember it being a pretty good undercard match. Maybe I'm wrong. Seemed like a tidy 3-star, maybe 3.25 affair. Okay. What's going on? Nothing much, actually. I'm kind of feeling refreshed after a few quiet weeks. Obviously, I've still been around. That was always the plan. Because I'm doing my thing here, especially with Late Night Grim. We're having fun with that, and it's a limited schedule. But feeling refreshed and excited for what is ahead. I don't know what that is. That wasn't me being cryptic. I'm just excited for it. Hello, Simon. Dude, I can't wait for Big Roman's return, I must say. That actually has got my full attention. I'm very excited to see the reaction that Roman is going to get when he returns here. I assume in just under 2 weeks. Very, very exciting. Hey, Joe, as the resident Sixers fan, has Embiid always been as immobile as 2024 Hurricane? That's a double punch there, because I'm also a Tottenham fan. Watching him walk instead of run up and down the court and not jump has pissed me off as a Team USA fan. Thanks. It's definitely got much worse. Injuries have piled up. Injuries have piled up is an understatement in Embiid's case. It's got much, much worse, unfortunately. I haven't seen any of the Team USA games. I've heard the responses, which have been mostly unfavorable for Embiid. I could be missing the positivity. I haven't seen much of it, though, personally. It sounds like LeBron's just going nuts. I don't know. I haven't watched the games, but he has not always been this immobile. All right. Riley asks, if you were to create a cast for an AEW Total Divas, whom are you choosing? Well, this is potentially messy question. Well, firstly, and I know my friend Jenny would agree with this, it's if this project is going to come into fruition, it's an absolute travesty that Natalya is not making the jump, right? I mean, that would have been a game changer, I feel, for this project. It would have got off the ground. But considering that she has not made the leap, I'm going to pull up the roster here. And in the most controversy-free fashion possible, I will say that, I mean, Brit did the All Elite reality show and got mixed reviews from what I understand. I think Anna Jay, could connect with the audience that would watch Total Divas. The fan that watched WWE Total Divas, if you to imagine they cross over, like it's the Monday Night Wars, maybe you get Anna Jay on there. Yep, not going to say that one. Maybe you could do something with Jules Hart and young Lee Johnson. Maybe that could be a thing. But otherwise, I don't know if Madison Rain is going to be popping the quarter hours on this program. I mean, the big heavy hitter is Mercedes. Can you get Mercedes to? She didn't do the other Total Divas, so it seems unlikely. Cool Hand Ange alongside Ruby. I don't know. There's some pieces there. Not sure it's a winner, though. We'll see. All right. Yes, Shivani's award thingy was very cool. Shout out to Tony Schiavone. I think he's quite good. Hello, JJ. What has gone on since May 10th? Dude, the way wrestling works, like, it's absurd. It really is. But right now, the news cycle in wrestling is extraordinary. And it's incredible because for a while there, it felt like you'd go years with nothing happening. It's really quite staggering. I'm sorry, my StreamYard is being weird. There we go. All right. Okay. Unc Howard hadn't even debuted yet. He had not. Good call. Hey, Joe, welcome back. Hello. I would love to know the main argument for AJ over Kurt. To me, Danielson is 1, Kurt is 2. Well, there's a range of arguments. And I'm going to try and do this without disparaging Kurt, because the thing I hate about doing the better than stuff is what you inevitably do is you tear down the opposite of your argument. Simply put, I think AJ's work is far more versatile in the sense that I think he can be multiple different people within a match. I don't think that was one of Kurt's strengths necessarily. The response to that could be he didn't need to be. He was Kurt Angle, and that worked. I think AJ was able to adjust far more. I think AJ was a far smarter wrestler. I think I would cite he's selling in that regard, and he's pacing. And I think that's why he's been able to kind of age more gracefully. Even a couple of years ago when people were saying AJ was washed, he was always very, very steady. And I think Kurt struggled for that kind of steady middle ground, right? Once the wheels came off, they came off. And understandably so, Kurt has an Olympic career behind his pro wrestling career. But yeah, I think he's a much smarter wrestler. I think the issue that I would have arguing for Kurt over AJ is some guys that are better salesmen and better psychologically than Kurt, he laps them athletically. And obviously Kurt's a freak athlete, but I don't know if anyone laps AJ Styles athletically. So I just find it really hard to me with AJ, like, I think this generation, I think Danielson's the only guy I would circle over him. AJ's a guy who can be super aggressive and nasty. He can also be super flashy and exciting. He can get on the mat and actually wrestle. He can work kind of classical main events. He can also work neat TV matches every night of the week without getting hurt. You know, like, it was only the last couple of years he started to get hurt. Oh, AJ was kind of bulletproof in that regard. It's less a knock of Kurt Angle and it's more praise of AJ Styles, I guess is the best way to put it. But there are a couple of things that immediately come to mind. I think if people with modern eyes went through both their TNA catalogs, I think you'd see a lot of the stuff I'm talking about, because I think there's a misconception that AJ was like a spot monkey, high spot guy, and then he became this great worker. I would implore anyone to go back and watch those matches in the mid 2000s. There was always a lot more depth to AJ's game than that. But obviously, Kurt's great, super exciting. And Ibu and I were going to do that debate, and then I was just like, it's just going to turn into like disparaging two great wrestlers. To me, it loses its charm at that point, you know. And that's why instead I did the Ken Anderson match review, because I wanted to celebrate what Kurt was rather than dwell on what he was not. All right, here we go. What else have we got here? Calling it in the ring, always. Simon says, Joe, after leaving Fight for you, did an interview with Tom. 2.5 years later, Jesus. Is it right to say you can do more and you're a main event talent? I'd like to think so. I'm definitely more popular. I don't know if that means better necessarily, right? Maybe I'm in my Yi era. But I'm definitely more popular, which is, you know, like I've kind of had to learn the hard way about the value of social media, and it can be very challenging sometimes, but it has been transformative for me personally. So you take the good with the bad in that regard. But yeah, I think I've come a long way. You know, in fear of being egotistical, like I think since then I've got comfortable doing way more comfortable doing hosting, interviews, writing match reviews rather than kind of just generic features. Yeah, I think I've come a long way since then. I know the industry agrees, but that's where I'm at. Dude, the hair's crazy right now. It's wild. It's like this grey hair, and it makes it look thin, even though there's like a shit ton of hair on my head. It's wild. I have not seen any G1. I have a list of matches though, so I do intend to watch like the good stuff, but I'm not there yet, unfortunately. Novi will be on the Late Night Grin this Friday, folks. Thoughts on a beatdown clan reunion with MVP, Joe, and Lashley? I would kiss TK if he said fuck it and brought Loki on board. I saw Loki was trying to shoot an angle with fucking Nemeth. Outrageous. He posted the clip of him shoot kicking him and was trying to get a TNA title match. He's back in the game, I guess. I don't know. I thought he'd stop wrestling. I think it's a good idea, but honestly, Riley, who was in the chair earlier, hopefully is still here. He had a good one. He messaged me about it. He said that, in fact, Joe's group, Samoa Joe Gun, would be a great introduction for the Hurt Business. The idea of that group versus the new group, which you assume will be, it's going to be Shelton and Bobby in ring. MVP recently got the stem cell business done, so I assume he wants to wrestle. But I think Leo Rush is going to end up in the group. Total guess on my part. But, I mean, if it was Leo, Shelton, and Bobby versus Joe, Shibata, and Hook, I mean, that sounds pretty cool to me. I don't know. But I'm intrigued by the Hurt Business thing. I have some hesitation, some pause, because I always think you should be careful trying to recapture stuff. And I do worry a little bit about, I think that fourth pick, whoever's going to be in Cedric's place, I think needs to be the right pick. So that's the only thing, but I'm excited for it. I'm super excited to just see MVP back on TV, dude. He's been criminally underused for this last year. So yeah, I am doing well. I hope you're doing well too. What do you think is up with Moxley? I don't know. He seems he seems increasingly disinterested, to be honest with you, in terms of AEW TV business. The last few times we saw him. Maybe I'm reading too much into his body language. I don't know. But he seemed kind of absent from his own home in this last, I would say, 6 months maybe. Hopefully all is well. He's had a great run there. I do think he has began to slightly misunderstand what makes him special. And, he may not give a fuck. He's got to do what he wants to do. Ultimately, it's his life, it's his career. But I don't think the appeal of Jon Moxley is a match graphic guy. I don't think the appeal of Jon Moxley is as a kind of quasi-shooter. I think the appeal of Jon Moxley is a personality and a presence and someone who can sell fights. I think he's one of the best in the entire industry at that. And through his fault, Tony Khan's fault, whoever's fault, he has done very little of that over the last year. I think you could argue he's done none of that, actually. So whatever is up, and again, hopefully he is well, I think something needs to change because they need Moxley firing, dude. I think AEW has done a really nice job in the last few weeks, and I've been watching from afar, but I'm following along. You know, it seems to me like they're kind of heating back up and putting the pieces in place, to me anyway. And Moxley could be of great assistance to that, but I don't think he can do much in the form he was in, you know, before this recent little kind of mini break he's taking, it seems. But I hope he's well, dude. He's been a great part of this wrestling decade, to put it mildly. My goodness, what a decade he's had. So, trying to think how to ask this question. What's it like working hard to get to a position you're in, but then it comes with its unfortunateness? If that's like related to me, I mean, if it's not to me, and I'm just going to answer this question as an egotist, and I apologize, but any like direction you take, there's going to be some shit you encounter that sucks. Like, it is what it is. I definitely am adjusting accordingly. I'm at a little bit of a crossroads in terms of if the kind of input on what I'm putting into this, if it doesn't have a certain reward at this point in the game, then I will be changing how I approach it, because I just don't, you know, in fear of getting derailed here, especially if I misread the question. I have no interest in like becoming a character online because I thought a match was 3.5 stars rather than 4.5, and that appears to be the current climate for professional wrestling talk. And so that's just not something I intend to explore. So you definitely have to adjust. Everyone's different. Everyone has different kind of parameters and limits for that stuff. I'm not too keen on finding out mine in that regard. So I hope that made sense. But we'll see what comes up in the coming months. How hilarious was the Slammiversary main event? I have no idea, dude. I saw clips. It looked ridiculous, though, yes. I'm actually doing really good. Really good. And I was doing good before I took the break. And so I tried to stress, and I know it's hard because, like, the way it was framed was like I myself couldn't really I couldn't explain myself without making it seem like I was like fucked up, and I wasn't. I was fine all along. But you know, like I was trying to just, I didn't want to do a whole Dynamite review about myself and why I was stepping away. So it's just like, I'm going to take a break. Let's move on. But the problem with that is, and what I learned was that it more confused the audience and then concerned the audience, neither of which was my intention. But, you know, you learn, and it is what it is. But I've always been good, and I'm doing better now, and I have a super clear head in terms of what's next. There's like 2 paths in front of me, and if one doesn't open itself, then I'm going to open the other one. And that's, it feels really good to have like a clear plan, and I'm doing good. Shout out Big Boss Man, real talk. Big Boss Man was great, man. Go watch some of the All Japan stuff Big Boss Man did. What a fucking beast. Okay. Yes, Randy Savage and Yokozuna is awesome, and is a great example of how much Vince underestimated Savage. Just totally, to me anyway, lost the plot with the New Gen stuff. I feel like in 94 and 95, Savage could have been a huge value to them. But he just, to me, took his eye off the ball with that. Savage is great in the Yokozuna match, and that's one of Yoko's best matches. There's 2 matches. They're both before WrestleManias. One's before WrestleMania 9, and the other's before WrestleMania 10. The title match before 10 is great. And if you watch the title match, Andrew asked this question, seek out the promo Savage cuts about how being, you know, stolen from him, his chance to be a 3-time WWF champion. Or I guess, yeah, 3-time would be. Which, when that was a big deal. Which we're thankfully moving back to. But yeah, it's an awesome match, and then that post-match promo a couple weeks later is great too. What are your thoughts on the long-term prospects of the Jacob Fatu Tamatonga tag team? I'm not going to lie, I'm disappointed Jacob won't be a singles guy for now. Yeah, I think it will be more a vehicle for the Jey Uso Sami Zayn crossover, which, speaking of such, that match Jey Uso and Sami Zayn versus Jacob and Tamara, I think on TV could rock the house. But I understand where you're coming from. I think it's to be honest, in fear of talking out of turn, it sounds like it's something that's kind of come together pretty late notice. So, yeah. The matches will be better. I'm with you. I'd like to see Jacob do single stuff with KO especially. But I'm hopeful that will come. The way they've presented Jacob thus far, I don't think he's going to be on the back burner. I think he's going to be a priority of this story, which was what we all kind of hoped for, right? So I'm excited. Hey, Joe, I recently watched 97 Canadian Stampede and was wondering if there are any other great 94 to 97 WWF pay-per-views of similar quality. I would use cage match, but it's compromised. Okay, so the difficulty of that, so similar quality, not really. That's not really what you're going to be getting in that era. That's a very special show. The best pay-per-view of 95, we actually talked about the historical at some point in the last week or so. Might have been off air. Survivor Series 95 is cool, and the build is really cool because they do like a sports thing with Diesel and Bret. That match is like, I think that match is great. Trying to think of the best pay of 96. I struggle with this because I think more of individual matches. Like 96 has some great stuff. You know, I recently talked about the International Incident main event. I talked about the SummerSlam. I did some tweets about the SummerSlam main event with Vader and Shawn, which is a fascinating watch, even if not a great match. But yeah, I don't know about full shows. If anyone in the chat can help, please help large hitbox here. But the one I would say is Survivor Series 95. That one I'm confident of. Survivor Series 96 has an all-time WWF classic and has the Sid title change. And it has The Rock's debut, which isn't good, but, you know, The Rock's debut. So there's a couple for you. I apologize I didn't have a better answer. Okay. Yeah, the cage match thing was that was a shame. I do sympathize with the folks running it, but I don't know if that was the best approach. I don't know. Thoughts on Joe Biden going head to head with Blood and Guts? I have to be honest, I did laugh out loud just because of how it's like it's so of course that's the time slot, you know, like it's the silliest thing ever, but you already knew. As soon as I saw the tweet, I was like, oh, that's going to fill my feed purely for wrestling purposes because of course. But hey, look, the Blood and Guts match shouldn't clash with it, right? So for whatever that means, I don't know. I can't read the ratings, dude. Sometimes they have great competition and they do well, and other times they have no competition and do poorly. Like I have no clue. Hopefully they do a good number. Let's hope you're well, Jake. Falls on the business of Seth with a ref shirt. I think it makes sense. It kind of takes the edge and limits or lowers my expectations for the match, purely in the sense that I think it's now going to be like super angle and story heavy, which is fine, and it's the first match and it makes sense. But the problem is, this isn't a Seth thing. This is just it's a special guest referee match. The problem with that is my patience is slightly, less because I don't really like a lot of the other matches on the SummerSlam card. I was kind of latched onto and focusing on Punk and Drew. So this is, it's not, I'm not thrilled, I have to be honest, but I do think it makes sense. So we'll see what they come up with. I'm sure the finish will be clever. There you go. Green Grappler was very fun. That was a great time. I can't really remember that show very well, but I seem to remember we had fun. It's a long time ago, but yeah, the Green Grappler shows were always a blast. Are always a blast. What did you think of Long Legs? Really, really liked it. Not any spoilers. Really, really liked it, but halfway through, I thought it was trending at a level that it struggled to maintain in the second half. I'll leave it there. I don't want to get into the details because I understand it's like a hot film that people are going to go see. I'm going to go see it again, I think, this week. But yeah, I think the first half is like spectacular and the second half is a mixed bag. How that makes sense. How much Slammiversary did you see? Top dollar. I only saw Mike Santana versus Jake something, which was good. I think Mike Santana is putting the pieces together. He still needs some editing and some of his stuff. He still tries to do some stuff that I don't think fits his like current frame. But he's leaning more and more on the power stuff and the physicality, and I think it's been a flattering, style for him thus far. He looks a lot better since coming back from injury than he did in those few months before he got hurt, I think. So that was good. I think Jamie Hayter will miss All In again. Man, we're getting close, right? Maybe she can return there and do something. I don't know. Haven't heard anything about Jamie Hayter. That whole situation has been kind of crazy. Are you looking forward to any of the Olympic events? Not really. I'm just way out of the loop, though. I'm sure I'll catch some of it. We were watching the Death Triangle Samuel match. I may actually. That sounds like a really cool deal. That sounds like it's going to be hot. Okay, what else we got here? Stokely would be good on AEW Told Divas. Jesus, I'm a long way behind, dude. I just realized what everyone's commenting about. Everyone was naming the women's division. I was like, what's happening here? And I realized. Now that he is cleared, what would you do for Punk's match on Raw's Netflix debut or just general TV matches you'd like? We need the Finn one. Because I'd imagine he can wrestle Finn, like often without even feeling it physically. Finn's so he looks so light now, and I mean that not even in a negative way, because he actually does a really good job of like working around it. He's very, very on point and professional, but when he works like Jey Uso, it's like, he knows how to wrestle house show matches at this point in his career. So I'd say Finn's one. Dom is a natural because they've already done it, so there's going to be like that would be an easy thing to put together. Chad Gable would be one that I would circle as a TV match. I'm trying to think of a bigger match, maybe on the heel side. Gable might be my pick, actually. I've already said, I've put out there, my main event for the first Netflix show is Dwayne and Roman. I don't give a fuck. I'm doubling down on that. If Rock's going to work Cody at Mania and they're going to do Bloodline through the end of the year, start the year with it. Let's do it. Imagine the number that could do. Ayo was right. He said it to me the other night. Like, they could just lie about the number of Netflix, but still be pretty cool. But yeah, Punk, I'll go Gable, I think. Not sure who else I'd put forward for that. Again, that would be if I had that main event on top, of course. You could equally do a tag, right? That'd be cool. Big all-star tag, maybe opposite the Judgment Day as a collective. FTR both at Wembley would be very unfortunate. Surprised me, I must say. I'll take it over the Acclaimed, but yeah, I understand why people aren't excited. I kind of think it's going to be like a four-way tag or a triple threat tag. It's my just gut feeling. Could be completely wrong on that. How do you think an AJ Styles Samoa Joe match will go in 2024? Dude, I think it would rock, to be honest. But I was very high on their 2018 match. I think they're like really underrated because they wasn't what they were in 2005. But to me, they were different matches, See, I think they'd have killer matches. I think they'd be in that kind of 15-minute range, but fuck, you can get a lot done. Like, that's Samoa Joe's shown it. How many matches he had longer than that is in AEW, so AJ and Joe would be killer. And look, I ain't saying this is a scoop. I know nothing. There is absolutely a chance those two fuckers wrestle each other again, right? This is wrestling, dude. Anything could happen. But it would be interesting for sure. Why do you not like Joe Hendry? I think, honestly, I don't dislike. I've probably seen 3 matches of Joe Hendry's. The one thing I'd say is I don't really think he's like funny necessarily, but like, that's even more subjective than the wrestling part. But I haven't seen enough matches to say he sucks. I haven't seen enough. His shtick doesn't really pop me, but that I ain't saying much, right? If rosters were only filled by guys whose shtick pops me, we'd have like 4 guys on TV. Simon's right. You got to smash the like button, subscribe. Good call. I have not been watching the G1, Mavs fan. I intend to circle back. All right, what else have we got here? If you could change one thing about RH, what would it be? I think it has to have its own roster, dude. And I'm not usually that guy, but like in ROH's case, I think it has to. The problem with that is I don't think many guys in AEW want to be on the Ring of Honor roster officially. I think they want to be on TV. It's really hard. I'm always hesitant to say this. I've said it before reluctantly, and then I've regretted it, and then I go back to it. But like, I just don't know if there is an appetite for Ring of Honor in a landscape where AEW themselves have free TVs. You know, now if you can sell it to like if you can get a distribution deal and it's on like Max or it's on it, even if it's on at like fucking 1 a.m. on True TV or whatever, it's like that's something. That Honor Club situation, like that's a really restrictive platform. And I just don't know if you could go up to a fledgling professional wrestler and say, like, yeah, this is now where your work's gonna live. I am super deep in the bubble. I don't hear any talk of Ring of Honor TV. That doesn't mean it isn't good, but I just don't see any talk of it. I don't see anyone watching it. I'm sure people are watching it, but I mean, how many, right? Like, so I think it's almost. I know this is a pessimistic answer, but I kind of think it's fruitless suggesting anything when they haven't got a real deal. I think expecting people to seek that out, I think is really challenging when the landscape has Collision, Dynamite, and Rampage. And that's just AEW, right? Which ultimately Ring of Honor is just an AEW. I mean, let's be real, it's AEW, right? So, like, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if it adds up right now. I don't know. All right. What else have we got here? Sorry, I'm struggling to read because I'm rusty. We've got to talk about the current state of the AEW tag division. What would you do to fix it? Well, it sucks, obviously, but the main thing is, dude, is like there needs to be a real emphasis on pairing guys up, and also not every tag team needs to be world's champion contender. We need depth in the tag division. Like, look, man. This act has been a team for a long time, and they don't really do anything. I'm not saying they should be the champs. I look at Tony Nese and Josh Woods, and it's like they're a heel tag team. One of them has some size and is a bit of a shooter, and the other one is a very, very professional, and they have a manager. And it's like I'm not saying they're like world beaters, but it feels like if you have them like in the mix and in the rotation, it feels like you can build some depth. I feel the same about Lee and Shane, and they had like a tiny stretch where they were doing that on TV. To me, that's the main thing. Like, there are so many singles guys that will be helped by having a tag team. It doesn't mean they can never wrestle singles matches. Clearly, look how many singles matches Phoenix and Penta wrestle. It's like, dude, Beast Morto's like, find a fucking tag team for that, dude. He's awesome. Maybe Billington and the one I was talking about the other day, the little, oh my goodness, Adam Priest. Bring him in and put him with Billington. I said Priest, like I was talking about Dame Priest, but Adam Priest, put him with Billington, have them as a little babyface tag team, Pair guys together and see what works. Find a tag team for an Ortiz, for a Lance Archer. And slowly but surely, if you put together 10 teams, 5 of them may stick, and suddenly you have some depth, and then you can figure out who's going to get over. Right now, it's like there's there's like a couple of teams that are seen as the top teams, and there's these teams that don't really have. They're on TV, but they're not really on TV. They sort of appear sporadically. And fuck the Kingdom, for goodness sakes. The Kingdom. The Kingdom have a ton to offer. They should have had a program with FTR by now. But they're doing the Ring of Honor thing, and it's just like, it just frustrates me because you may not be able to make the best tag division in the world, but I think it's like very obvious how you could just add some juice, give some depth, hierarchy, all of these things. Curious on your take on this. I don't want Jacob Fatu to be part of the tag title match. I feel like at this stage of his run, he should just be being the shit out of people. It depends, honestly, on how he's presented in it. But I understand your point. I know you asked this before I'd answered it, but yeah, I get it. It all depends for me on like how he's presented it. He shouldn't just be a guy taking poison ranas, No doubt about that. Mr. Holt, what's the deal with the retirement? Pulling Terry Funk and come back home to wrestle Purish. You being gone has caused Ibu's to post diabolical cooking with plastic plates. Well, firstly, Ibu's going to do the plastic plates posting regardless of whether I'm on Wrestle Purist or not. But basically, where I'm at, I have not retired. I was on whatever day that was, Sunday. But basically, the next couple months is about kind of figuring out what's out there, what the current wrestling media landscape is. And anyone who's followed me for a long time knows that I've very seldom said something like this, but it's the truth. And I'm making it playful, but I'm being honest about it. You see the gimmick under my name there. This Operation Get Paid. You know, and Wrestle Purist pays me very, very fairly. They pay me based on how you guys support the shows, and I've been very thankful for that. I've done some wonderful things with Wrestle Purist. I interviewed Athena. I did video essays. I did all of this great stuff. But, I mean, it's still a very, very new site, right? There's not like a huge fucking infrastructure. It's just like a bunch of us trying our best. So I want to see what's out there because at this point in the game, I've been doing this for nearly, I've been in wrestling media in some form or fashion for, God, 6.5 years, 7.5 years, one or the other. And I think it's time to try and monetize this in a way that I never really have before. And again, a lot of you are new to me, but if you was Late Night Grim before we used to have, and our tiers were, it was one tier, you had $1 and you got everything. And I, you know, that was what I felt was right at the time. I didn't believe enough in, I didn't think we deserved any more than that. And we probably didn't. But at this point, I feel like I've come a long way. I've done enough stuff. I've proven myself enough that like, it's time for me to kind of look at how to, if I'm going to be doing as much work as I was doing, I need to get my reward on some level. And I know that sounds egotistical and I apologize, but I'm just trying to be like completely honest with the audience. Like, so yeah, that's not, let me be clear, that's not a reflection of Wrestle Purists. They can only do so much for me in that regard. They're a brand new site. Like they've been great to me, and I will be around in some form or fashion. But yeah, I hope that made sense. Does that make sense? I don't know. Ricochet. What about him? Good wrestler. He's a free agent, you know. Good wrestler. Oh, in the Hurt business? Yeah, I don't know. I know MVP pitched him before, but yeah, I'm not sure. What's your thoughts on the fumbled line online? I think it's like sports. Some coaches, like certain guys, see no value in others. It's clear Bobby had a ceiling in Triple H's WWE. He should leave. Yeah, I think, you know, it's kind of a thing that we've. I mean, I think the way that it's trended is that every single departure has to have like a post-mortem. It has to be explored, like the rights and the wrongs. Now, let me be clear. I think there's some elements to the Lashley MVP stuff that, as we'll learn in the coming weeks, months, I'd imagine will make it worth that post-mortem. But generally, I mean, that's always my attitude. It's just like, guys have their run. Beauty in the eye of the beholder. Booker will put them where he wants to put them. And, you know, you move on. I think that's the healthy way to look at wrestling. I think, again, with Bobby, I think it's going to be different because I think it's clear that MVP at least seems to feel, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, you know, I don't think I'm talking out of turn. So he seems to feel there's more to this situation. So I will wait to hear what MVP says about that because that will be, it'll be interesting the way he chooses to speak on that, if he does it, or what he's handling of it will be, and so on and so forth. I'm a big fan of MVP, and I've generally enjoyed the way he's conducted himself. So I'm very intrigued to see what he says once he's out and about doing his thing. But generally, yeah, it's guys have their run, you move on. I've seen you've toned down your consumption, of current craps, and I assume you're going to All In. Are you excited to go to Wembley, or does it feel like a bit of an obligation at this point? No, I'm definitely excited. Live wrestling's great. I'm going with my brother. We're sitting on the floor for some fucking reason. Danielson's going to probably win the world's title. I'm super excited, dude. Wrestling's awesome, and part of reminding myself it's awesome, weirdly, is watching less of it and trying to enjoy it more. And obligation is a word that definitely has been present on my mind at times watching wrestling in the last year, but not to go something like Wembley. It's, you know, I don't take for granted, like, look, they're going to do a lot less people this year, but dude, you're going to have 40, 50,000 people in a stadium for a non-WWE show. It's still pretty sick. I'm all for it. Are we ever getting the Big Lebowski grin along? Yes, but I was supposed to follow up on that and failed to, so maybe not immediately. I don't know. Yeah. I tend, that's my kind of thing. I think there is I think there's the two things I would say about Lashley on the negative side, because I have very little negative to say about Bobby Lashley to AEW. I think Bobby Lashley's fucking awesome. I think he and MVP are a great act. I think he adds, like, I saw some talk that he doesn't fit the style, and like to me, I think that's like a compliment too. I think he can have some really quirky matches. Dude, Bobby Lashley and Will Ospreay will be awesome. Like, I think it's good that he's not like a cookie cutter AEW top guy, in ring anyway. His style's different. So I'm mostly positive on Bobby. The two things I would say is I agree with you on the stable deal. I think AEW sometimes struggles to book them as a part of the actual fabric of the TV show, and they kind of become like a fight camp, which I don't think would suit the Hurt Business at all, actually. I think why they were awesome was they were a unit on TV. And I also, the one thing I would say, and I'm hesitant on this because I think he's going to prove me wrong, and I hope so. I do think there were some signs that Bobby was declining slightly. And my gut feeling is it's because he stopped giving a fuck. Because sometimes crowds would catch up when he would, when the crowd would be with him, he would just kind of explode. There was a couple matches over the last, I would say, 18 months maybe, where I thought he looks a little up and down. Now, again, my hope is he just didn't give a shit. We'll find out pretty soon. But that's the one thing I would actually circle as like a, we'll see how that turns out. Who would you start giving Thibodeau moments in any company going forward for 2024? Dude, Mia Yim quietly has been transformative for that SmackDown Women's Division. What she gives the TV and her effort and her bumping, she ain't maybe getting Tibbs minutes, but she is absolutely getting the playoff rotation. No two ways about it. I think, Gunther as world champion will be interesting because I'm intrigued how they differentiate it from his time as IC champion, Really intrigued by how they present him as world champion. Like, does he actually go, because as IC champ, he would kind of be like in the background, and then he would emerge for the title matches, right? He wasn't someone they overexposed on TV. I'm intrigued they go the opposite direction. They give him those minutes you're referencing. Andrade Idolo. Oh, baby. What a grappler he is. Love watching him wrestle. Would love to see him be kind of a constant on TV in a big way. I really hope we'll get that AJ feud. On the AEW side of things, I'm trying to think of who's not being used a ton. That I honestly think as baby faces, I think the Bang Bang Gang, I think their ceiling is actually up as baby. I think they have, in a weird way, maybe I'm crazy, I think they have a little bit of a cool factor as baby faces. I kind of felt this way when they were with the Acclaimed. It felt like they should be the baby faces. And I was listening to that crowd on Saturday, and I don't know. I think there's something to them as baby faces. I think they actually really click as a unit. I think people want to cheer them. So there's a fun one. Other than that, Athena, dude. Let's get Athena having some Tibbs minutes on the main shows, on the TV shows. We need Bischoff-esque thumbnails for you. That would be funny, yeah. Sure. That would absolutely be funny. This is true. The Good Brothers match is not part of Hulbert House show lore. That was a very fun match, and you're right. They are working very hard down there in the NXT. Some of the matches are real roller coasters, just because I knew the guys they're working with, but that's part of the fun of it, I guess, right? It's November 2005. Instead of Christian going to TNA, Edge goes, and Christian is in the spot of Edge in WWE over the next 3 years. What do you think their careers look like? Wow. I could be very spiteful about this, couldn't I? Very, very spiteful. I'm going to be. Fuck it. I do not think Edge would definitely stand out in TNA, to be fair. I'm not going to go that far. I think Edge would very much legacy-wise have what Christian has in terms of like the hardcore fans really fuck with what he did outside the company, and they talk about how he made himself as a top guy. I think Edge would do similar, but I think the kind of wrestling snobs like myself would like it less than they like Christian. However, I have to say, and I apologize to Big Coat, but I feel like if Christian got the push that Edge did in that era, when it was like he was the top heel on SmackDown for like 3 years, feels like Christian would be like a fucking. Feels like he'd be he'd be like an all timer within WWE Lord's View. I feel Christian is an all timer anyway, but I feel like in WWE canon he'd be like a godly heel. He'd be like the general manager right now of one of the shows, Maybe he'd be wrestling The Rock or something. I don't know. But that's an interesting one. Yeah, I don't know. Fun one. Yes, the main event of Raw was very 2023, which I understand is a hilarious sentence, but it makes sense if you watch those shows. Hi, Joe. How are you? Are you going back to long hair days? Not the plan, but I am just kind of letting it rock. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. Survivor Series 96. There you go. I got to this in the end. Thank you, chat. This is for the question about mid-90s WWF pay-per-views. Hoping for Wembley, we get some big multi-tag team match. I have no interest in Bucks FTR again. I'd probably have some stip to get them out and around the venue. No ladders, though. You could do dog collar, right? That could be interesting. The Bucks in a bloodbath, I think, could be the way around it. But I'm not sure. King of the Ring 93 is another great show for that era. Joe, what do you think is more likely? Seth just costs Punk, or Punk pisses Seth off and Seth tries to hit Punk and accidentally hits Drew and has to count for Punk? I don't know. I don't think they want to turn Seth outright. So I don't think he's just going to like directly cost Punk. I think Punk's going to do something that pisses Seth off to where Seth is entitled to costing Punk the match. I don't think they're going to go full SummerSlam 97. But yeah, I think that's the ticket. Because I think they're going to do the Shades of Grey stuff with Seth and Punk. AEW Blood and Guts? What? Absolutely not. I will not be watching along the Blood and the Guts. I might watch it, but I will not be watching it live on this platform. Have you seen the Bret Bulldog match from '95? Do you think it's better than the SummerSlam match, or will they kick you out of the country for that? I actually do think it's better, but it's better in a much more like restrained and conventional fashion, in the sense that it doesn't have there's a certain gravity that the Wembley match has because it's Wembley and it's such a special occasion, and the fact they're working the main event, like it's just, by 95, Bret in the main event is like just, it's another Sunday, right? Granted, 95 itself, not so much, but I mean the years prior. So it's more like a sort of a more standard look at their dynamic. And it has some faults. The heat is a little bit dry, but Bret gets the juice. And yeah, I do prefer the 95 match. To be honest, I don't love either match. I think they're both very good. I like them both. Do you think Biden watched Ospreay? No. I'd love to know Manny's answer to that. We have a different question. Where did you get these amazing photos and posters behind you? This one, this is going to be hilarious watching me try to point behind myself. This is off the worldwrestlingfederation.com. I don't know if they still sell it, but the fellow who did this one, he did like a bunch of posters that were on their shop and they never promoted them. And like someone got me for Christmas like years ago now, the Havoc one. The Sam Joe is a JJ Williams exclusive. Wonderful shot. These two are the AEW posters they sell. They call them like Matchup Monday. This one, if you can't tell, is the Briscoe's dog collar. This is the 58-minute or whatever it was collision match with FTR. I also have Kendrick Lamar business and Cuckoo's Nest here. So those are not professional wrestling deals. And I can't remember. This was a gift, the Kendrick deal. I can't remember where I got the Cuckoo's Nest thing, but One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a pretty good film. I don't know if you've heard about it. Hot take, I know. What do you think they should do with Cena's last run? I'd like to see him get 17, but not quite sure how they'd get there. I would really lean on all-star tags, and the big singles match that I would do is Gunther. That would be my WrestleMania match, I think, for the world title. I think that's the play. I would be really careful with some of these singles matches, guys. I have to be honest, and maybe I'm being overly pessimistic, and they'd be great, but I don't know what Cena and Punk looks like in 2024. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully, it's fucking awesome. Hopefully, it's awesome. Joe, do you think Cody's going to struggle to get out of Roman's shadow when he's back? Feels like even when he's gone, he's still the main character. Guy's just got the aura. I don't think it'll be too big of an issue because Roman will make, I think, very few towns. But Roman's going to be, when he comes back, it's going to be a huge deal. Cody's, I think, saving grace will be that I think the Randy Orton feud's going to be red hot when that happens. So I think Cody will be fine. Right. Some Stephanie Vaca talk. That's all happened since we last did this. Shout out to her. Right, we're 20 minutes behind, so if I start going quicker, I apologize, but I don't want to be here for years. Much I'd like to be. It feels like it'd be a mistake. Jake says, I think Dwayne beats Cody for the belt on the Netflix show and they flip it back at Mania. Maybe. Maybe so. As it goes, it might have been fine for Ring of Honor to go and TK just pick up the library from WWE. It probably would have worked out that way, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad he owns it in a lot of ways, but it's a difficult project to see the place for right now, which is a shame. There you go. There's some Ring of Honor views, and Jano JJ's in here too. Favorite Tanahashi match? Either Omega from Tokyo Dome, or the AJ G1 match, or the Suzuki match from 2012. That'd be my main three. The AJ G1 match is like that's some cinema shit right there, When the people are crying in the front row, God bless. Okay. I agree with this about tag team wrestling in AEW. I agree completely. There needs to be more straight up 2-on-2 tags. It's a great way of establishing hierarchy. Expectations for Finn and Gunny on next week's Raw. This is Ibu, by the way. I think it'll be very good in a very understated sort of workmanlike fashion, which is what Finn does now. It'll probably be a 3.5-star match that I will love very much. Very mechanically solid. Finn will be able to work babyface. The last time he did that was that random tag match with. Damn it. Who was the tag match, guys? It was him and Priest. They worked babyface against someone. Chat will know. Let me scroll down. There was a tag team match on Raw, and they worked babyface. It was like a heel match, and they just sort of flipped in the middle of the match. I wish I could remember who this was. It was very good. Imperium. Thank you. That's the last time Finn worked babyface, and it was an absolute hoot just because it had seamlessly he flipped the switch. So I think it'll be very good. Probably not in a very showy way, but I think I'll like it a lot. There's some love for Ring of Honor in the chat here, which I appreciate. Again, folks, don't get me wrong. I'm sure the show's fun at times. I see very little talk about it. That's all. Yura and Claudio would be a really good choice to add some juice to the tag division. Good call. Brian Keith and Big Bill should probably do some tag matches. Yeah. That would be something that's, that really would add tremendous value to the whole deal, right? I mean, if you're going to do the learning tree, at least you get a tag team out of it. Favorite part of the hiatus. Just it is nice to not feel like I have to do stuff, I have to watch stuff. It is nice. Again, I'm happy to do that stuff, but it's just when you're just doing it for love of the game, at some point you run out of love for the game, It was nice to be able to sit out of that MJF Ospreay debate. I haven't seen the match yet. I'll watch it one day on a rainy day, maybe. And I reckon I'll be in the middle on it. But Jesus, man, that was fucking ridiculous last week. Seriously, that was outrageous. So I was glad to not be any part of that. I've noticed TK basically refuses to do programs about a title involved anymore. Feels like the last big one was Hangman Swerve. I don't understand why every program needs a mid-card title involved. It's crazy too, because I feel like that wasn't a thing at all before. I'm not super locked in enough to co-sign that completely, but it sounds like a thing. Wasn't a problem before at all. Joe Hulbert to the bump. I appreciate this very, very much. Bump card is filling up. You're right. Really enjoyed the environment of WCW Collision in Texas, especially when Dustin popped up with the Von Erichs, thinking about renaming it World Class Championship Wrestling Collision. That's a good call. I like this up. So the only thing I would say is I think some bleachers would be nice, but the stage itself looks really cool, I think. Really cool. I'm always scared of flat buildings because it reminds me of Ring of Honor Sinclair tapings, and sometimes the sound sucks. Luckily, they were so loud it wasn't a problem at all on Saturday. But I thought it was a really cool vibe. You guys have heard me for the longest time. I'm a big proponent of trying to find quirky spots for the second show. I think it's such an easy way to differentiate Collision and give it its own style and its own vibe. I think that's something we've lost in wrestling, since WCW's demise. I think in US wrestling is like giving shows a distinct vibe with their location and their setting and their staging. I think WCW, that's one thing they were actually great at. Sometimes they would go, too far with it, but they would try to do those things. I would love to see AEW try more of that stuff, but even if it's just going to be, trying to get these short stops in places like this where you spend 4 or 5 weeks, I think it's great. I think it gives the show a different flavor. You still think Joe has that one match there in WWE? I don't know if this is about the Samoan submission machine. I assume it is. Joe's in a great spot. I think it's fair to say, both of the top bookers in the States think he's fucking awesome. So I think I think he'll be able to pick what he does at the end of his career. But, he's had a great time in AEW, it seems. So I wouldn't expect anything, but, I definitely wouldn't write off. Have you had an idea for a gimmick that you've always wanted to sell to? I haven't, Josh, and I'm very frustrated that as a hopeful, as someone who enjoys fantasy booking, I'm always very frustrated that I haven't got the brain for gimmicks. I wish I did. The idea of looking at a professional wrestler in trunks and ties, being this is the gimmick for them, pops me. That to me is true professional wrestling horseshit. That's glorious to me. So yeah, I haven't really got anything, but I would love to have stuff. It pops me very much. The idea that, once upon a time, it's not necessarily something that we have anymore, the two promotions now, but for a while there, the World Wrestling Federation would just look at guys and be well, he looks like a insert job title, and it wasn't very good, but there's something hilarious about it to me, but I haven't got any good ideas, unfortunately. Also, NXT's new signings. Assume you mean Steph and Julia. If I've missed anyone else, I apologize. I think Stephanie is a huge piece, dude. Huge piece. I actually think I'm more bullish about her chance in WWE than Julia. Only because I think based on her excitement to go, I think she's going to be quicker to pretty much get on board with all in any direction. I think Julia will be harder just because, in terms of the role Julia's been playing in Stardom and now briefly Marigold, I just think it's going to be harder to break her out of her kind of rhythm of doing things. And her rhythm is also more, quirky than Steph's. Julia is not mechanically, razor sharp. She's not like a sort of fundamental wizard. But her appeal is she has this kind of distinct physicality that, when paired with her presence and look, are a very unique combination. I'm intrigued how that transitions and how that comes across on WWE. I think Stephanie Becker will be big business, though. I really do. I think she's going to be a big time player. So both great signings. If there's any others that I missed, I apologize. I did not see them. Excitement levels for TW9. I'm excited. I didn't like TW 2020 though, so that I have to be cautious because I just thought it kind of made it less fun. And it felt more mechanical, I thought. So I have slight pause in that regard. The only thing I would say is I am excited, but there are some of the features I'm not sure are actually going to be fun to play so much as they are just like showy, you know? I don't know if I actually want to pick a stooge in the locker room. Maybe I do. I don't know. I'll tell you when it comes out. I'll give you an update. I just had some time today to fire one up, and I was 94 WCW, but if Hogan doesn't come in, I was a lot of fun with that because you get to follow through the Austin and Dustin like ascents. Very fun. Bobby Lashley, Darby Allin will be great. Absolutely. What are your thoughts on Bryan winning the Owen over Hangman and the idea of Bryan winning the belt all in? All I can think of is Shoot's point of if Swerve loses at Wembley, why not go with Will? Yeah. Yeah, I'm on record with I think it should have been Ospreay. That's where I'm always going to be, I think. Selfishly, I'm more into the Bryan, happy ending than I am the Hangman Swerve conflict. It's just me personally, so I'm happy with it. I will admit, I do think there's like a sort of humor to the idea that after all the Bryan big matches, the one that he finally won was the one that people were not sure he should win. I do find some humor in it, I have to say. It does feel like Hangman kind of it felt like he was on the cusp of really exploding with that return. I'm not sure it was the right call, to be totally honest. Both of those, but it's Bryan Danielson, and I'm sure by the time he holds the belt up at Wembley, I'm sure, it'll be hard not to be kind of bullish on it, I think. Is there really merit to AEW still bringing an act from WWE and just trying to continue that act in front of AEW's audience? There is not any value in it from this will pop a rating. No, I don't think. But I guess the question is, it more becomes case by case. Will this act make the TV show better? I think MVP and Lashley as an act, I think makes AEW better because I think they're a great act. I think MVP is a really good promo, and I think Lashley always gets over with wrestling fans and is great as a kind of dominant heel alongside the mouthpiece. And I think, the idea of like a Lashley Swerve program, I think is a good one. I'm not convinced by Hurt Business until I see it in action. Because again, the fourth pick has to be right in the sense that it has to be someone who can frankly, do a lot of the work physically, because Shelton is, as gracefully as he's aged, and same for Bobby. Like, they're getting up there, right? But it also needs to be someone that gives it a different personality than what they had in WWE. So I'm torn on it, I think. Case by case basis. Where does Keith Lee go now? Probably back to the World Wrestling Federation at some point. How that goes, I have no clue. No clue. But that's my guess. It's not a scoop. Don't run that story ringside news. Who's your favorite worker that doesn't try it and why? Some obvious answers to that. I'm going to try and avoid those. A good not trier, and he goes under the radar because he's so awesome in big matches. If you get yourself like a Rampage Roosh match, he can be fucking god tier as a just refuses to bump, sell, just walks a guy down and whacks them over and over again. He can be tremendous. I mean, he kind of does that in big matches too, but he'll occasionally fall down. He had a match with Bandito where it was like one of Bandito's first matches in the territory, and he was going over. And Roosh just beat the hell out of him, just walked him down, give him no offense. Hilarious wrestler. I do remember Ricky Starks, yes. Pretty big fan. I like Ricky Starks. I liked Mia versus Nia also, or Michin versus Nia. Over under Athena matches on AEW 3.5 the rest of the year. Under. Sadly. The Hurt Business becomes the Damage Corporation. The name could be very funny. Certainly could be. Joe, we need grin-alongs on state-of-the-art events from NXT, Ring of Honor, Marigold, Noah, and the Best of the Indies. You may get that. As I said, two paths in front of me. One doesn't open for me, I'll open the other one myself. You may get that. What's your top 3 video games of all time? Dude. I'm like the least qualified person to answer this ever because my video game experience is like exclusively. Actually, no, I guess I can do so. Let me think about this. I'm trying not to do the sports titles because it's lame. I'm trying to think of games I've actually played. I don't remember which one's which, but I played all the Uncharted games. They were very cool. The film was less cool, but the games were very cool. The last GTA and the horror one that has David Arquette as the voice actor. I don't remember what it's called, but they're the three games I distinctly remember completing. No, I'm wrong. I tell a lie. The Spider-Man games I've played too, they're fucking awesome. They're awesome. I played the one that recently came out recently, probably wasn't recent, was so good actually, and I had so much fun completing and getting 100% that I actually went and bought the Miles Morales one, which I think I skipped over that because it was like in the middle of consoles, so something was going on, I forget. But so I'm lying, Josh. There's a handful of there was more than 3 there. Now I'm a gamer after all. Who knew? I agree with this completely. The belts are all just like, yeah, I agree. And on that point, Zora asks, if you were tasked with differentiating the TNT International Continental Championships, what would you do? Okay, firstly, I think then I can do 2, but all 3 of them is ridiculous. They only need 2. Put 2 of those together. The obvious answer for TNT is TNT should be the collision belt. There should be a TNT title match based on every collision. I think that makes perfect sense. Unless I'm mistaken, that's the network Collision's on. It would give Collision its kind of own built-in top title without having to do an official brand split. Could be informal. And then I'd put the International and Continental. I just see no reason for. I never understood why the Continental belt had to be its own thing. Never understood it. What would you have Hangman do for Wembley? Was hoping Hangman, Ospreay, and MJF DG, but seems like it's headed to Ospreay MJF. Yeah. Difficult, very, very difficult. I don't like the Okada idea that I've seen thrown around. I'm not a fan of that personally. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to say Jeff Jarrett, but I'm going to say Jeff Jarrett, aren't I? Jeff Jarrett. Sorry, mate. Can't help myself. Maybe get a Taylor Swift cameo. These are the games we play. What do you feel about the lack of room to move up in both companies? There's a log jam, but I think it will fix itself in the coming years because, politely, a lot of the fellas are getting really fucking old, aren't they? Bless them. I mean, it is what it is, you know. AJ Styles had a world title program this year. He's 47. Samoa Joe was the world champion this year. He's younger, but, you know, Punk is one of the top guys. Roman's not going to be in wrestling for much longer, I don't think. I think on the WWE side of things, some of those heavy hitters are just going to slowly fade. Rock can't come back, you know, forever. Not saying Seth Rollins is going to retire by any means, but, you know, let's be real, physically, he's probably not going to be, you know, going at the rate he was going at last year, perhaps 2 years ago. I think it will work itself out, but yeah, there's definitely a situation there. Absolutely. It's tough. Meanwhile, NXT, if you're a young professional wrestler, you got to look at that NXT times. Like whatever you think of NXT, I don't watch it, but if you're just looking at it professionally, it's like here you have a 2-hour TV show, and look at some of the guys they're pushing on that show. With all due respect, I mean, you got to be licking your lips, dude. Like there's vacancies there. That's a weird disconnect, and there's like the main rosters, and there's no room on that show, but on either show. But NXT, to say there's room would be, I mean, it's. Again, Sean Spears is a good pro wrestler, but like, holy shit. He's on TV every week right now. It's a crazy time in that regard. I think the NXT roster on the CW is going to be fucking absurd, like the weirdest wrestling roster ever. You're going to have guys that are like very deep in their career, they're full-time, I think, and you're also going to have guys that are just starting. It's going to be wackier than ever, I believe. Okay. Harv says, how big are you on TV? You have a great grasp of graps and film. Thank you. But never really seen to talk about TV shows. What are your favorite TV shows and all that business? My grasp is very poor. I struggle with the time investment, and especially with the alleged grasp I have on those other 2 things. Very, very poor. The shows that I have watched in full, however, the one that immediately, you know, this is not a very dynamic answer, I concede, but I was a huge Breaking Bad and then Better Call Saul fan. I binged both of those in the pandemic. I want to say I wasn't watching them in real time. Other shows I've actually finished. I want to say I've done like 3 seasons of The Wire. I think I finished it. Very unfortunate. Shit. I've seen a lot of the old classic sitcoms, like Frasier, for example. I've seen every episode of Frasier 3 or 4 times, probably. But dramas, I'm not, unless I'm forgetting stuff, which I very well may be. Not very well versed, unfortunately. Not very well versed at all. But I appreciate the compliment about films and wrestling. Does Cena beat Gunther at Mania? It all depends on how. It all depends on how John's looking, to be honest. He's the last few times we saw him, he didn't look great, but he may be able to get into a rhythm, and if he can, fuck it, why not? If not, Gunther crushing the dreams. Here's Pretty Bro says it's great. I mean, yeah, so you gave away on that. Temperature talk on our Sixers. I want to talk myself into the Paul George thing, but I just can't shake the feeling it ends in absolute tears. You know, it just feels like it's got disaster written all over it. So I can't shake that thought. Do you think Cena and Tanahashi in their primes would be good? Absolutely. Those 2 dudes are so smart. They get good matches with me in their prime. Are you back in an NFL team this year? I'm not. I've tried to do NFL and I just never actually get into it. It's a shame. Yeah, maybe. Maybe Cena and Punk could be good. The thing with the Joe is like, the thing that worries me about the match is while they were never like explosive or silky smooth, I do think there's a certain level of pop and snap that's needed, you know? And I also worry partly that like expectations is hard, and maybe I'm just downplaying what would be awesome. I think we're going to find out. I think they're going to try and do it, so we'll find out for ourselves soon enough. Okay. Dude, Tanahashi, yes. King of Bros 2013, and also the Invasion Attack one is unbelievable too. I'm still 20 minutes behind. I've done a terrible job here of accelerating. Really, really useless. I'm happy to be until the top of the hour. When we hit 2 hours, it's, you know, I'm sorry, folks. I just have to deal with this text message here. Chris is in the chat. Favorite Coen Brothers movie? Oh shit, dude. Lebowski's got to be my 1C because Lebowski's one of my favorite films ever. Fargo's great. No Country for Old Men. I'm a huge fan of Burn After Reading. I know that like when it came out, it was polarizing. I think it's absolutely superb. Those are the first. That'd be my Mount Rushmore, I guess. I hope you're well, Chris. We need to launch that movie pod soon, brother. Tape Machines pop. Tape Machines is fucking awesome. Speaking of Survivor Series 96, I know the historic gravity of the Bret Austin Mania match and the finish is overpowering, but depending on the day you ask me, I would take their Survivor Series match over it. So would I, man. So would I. I think that match is one of the best matches in WWF history. I think it's unbelievable. I would actually go further than that and say that there's a lot of qualities to Bret versus Austin from Survivor Series that capture pretty much everything I like about wrestling. The way that match is wrestled is like, to me, that's just perfection. It's not the most exciting match I concede, but I think the way it builds the drama and the way that they present the match, the way Jim Ross in particular calls the match, all-timer. Absolute all-timer. No doubt about it. Thoughts on the 12-6 elbow no longer being illegal as of November 1st? I mean, beast. I didn't know that, though. That's pretty sick. It's way overdue, I feel. Way overdue. Are they going to get rid of the shit where you can put your hands down on knees to the floor on the ground, too? Because that was very frustrating. So, unfortunately, we'll probably never get a Danielson Gunther match. That would be very nice, certainly, yeah. But, you know, sometimes it's nice to have these things in the imagination. Thoughts on Michael Cole referring to Nikki Cross as that thing or witch? Pretty funny, I guess. Thoughts on the shoot fighting event happening with England lads this week? It's the UFC card, right? I would watch it if it was on at my time, but it's not. It's on Eastern Stand. It's on the Eastern. It's It's not like 3 a.m. here, even though it's in Manchester, which happened to me when I went to Manchester for Henderson and Bisping. So I'm not really too well versed. The Leon Bilal fight does not, to my knowledge, is not very exciting, but I could be missing some great depth or detail too. I'm so out of the loop, guys. It's terrible. I used to watch so much MMA. It's a shame. Yes, MVP live might with no restrict. Yeah, he had some crazy ones in TNA, dude. He swung for the fences at times. What does Pac do at All In? I don't know. I think it's going to be like a 6-man, and it feels like a waste with the story they've told with him, you know? It really does. You think Joshua makes quick work of Dubois? And do you think Usyk wins the rematch? By the way, we're making up time very quickly here. I do think Joshua makes pretty quick work of Dubois. Dubois is dangerous. If he lands clean, anything can happen. It goes without saying. But he's very, very leaky defensively. I just think Joshua is too accurate for that. Way too accurate. If he gets hit by the same amount of shots as he got hit by Hrgovic, then that'll be quick. But I think Usyk's just an... Oh, sorry, Usyk and Fury. Sorry, I thought you was asking if then he'd fight Usyk. I like Usyk in the rematch for sure. I think you see him in the ring make adjustments, second half of the Fury fight, and I'm not picking against him after that. No way. TW. Speaking of TW play-alongs, that may be something that's in our future. Well, not here, but over there at the unassociated Late Night Grin. Joe, do you think Adam Cole is coming back to AEW or going to WWE when his contract is up? Honestly, dude, with injury time, he probably has he might have 4 years left on his deal. Honestly. I mean, yeah, I have no clue, but hopefully he can just come back. I mean, he's had a real tough go. I'm not a big fan, as everyone knows, but good Lord. Tough go of it. Very tough. Thoughts on AEW doing 2 babyface stadium main events? Seems like quite a mistake to me. Feels like stadium crowd should have to find guy to cheer and boo for atmosphere alone. Interesting question. I hadn't thought of that really. I think the way this will work narrative-wise, I think there will be a pretty defined babyface in that Swerve will kind of lean a certain way, I think, the way he did with Ospreay. So I don't think it will hurt the atmosphere, but I do understand your point. I think it's an interesting one. Joe, being truthfully honest, what do you think of Cody's title reign? I've liked it. I mean, I love the 2 AJ matches. I liked the Logan match. It annoyed me at times, but I thought there was a lot of good to it. I was higher on the 6-man tag than most people. I really haven't got any complaints about it. I mean, the Solo Sikoa match could be hilarious, but we'll wait and see on that one. Wait and see what it looks like once it happens. But I think he's been good thus far. It's hard when you have the chase he had. It's hard to follow up with a reign that's going to fit match everyone's expectations. But I've liked him. Where does Mox go from here? I'm not sure, but hopefully into a big time singles program with someone. Maybe with Bob Lash. Fuck, why not, right? Why not? You get him do the BCC stuff if you want to. Are you optimistic about Paul George and Philly? If I'm honest, no, but I'll pretend just to be polite to everyone. Don't know if it's a hot take, but I feel like Cody's seen it as the match that has to get done before he hangs it up past the babyface torch. Maybe. The only thing is you have to be slightly careful because you don't want people to pick the sentimental choice, The only thing, you got to be careful. You got to be careful not to heal Cody. Sorry, guys. I'll be 1 second. I'm just having to respond to something. It's very difficult because I cannot multitask, because of course I can't. Favorite director? Man, it's one of those questions that gives me too much credit because, I don't know if I have the game to answer that with anything that's not an obvious answer, like Scorsese or Spielberg. I would say Spielberg because, anyway, I don't know if people know this. I talk about it a lot on Twitter, but I know not all of you follow me on or whatever. But The Fabelmans is among my favorite films. I'm not the only person in the world who's ever said those words. So for that line, I think I have to say Spielberg. When I saw that movie at the cinema, it was me and lots of older folks, and I cried during that film like I was. I mean, it really had no reason to be crying that way. It's not really a sad film in that way. I mean, it's sad. I think it's sad, clearly, but it's not like a. No one else goes and cries at the Fablemans, and I was just kicked the shit out of me. And the funniest thing was, I was the only person in my family that liked it, and now I'm so persistent. I bullied my entire family into also liking it, just because I wouldn't give up on it. So, Fablemans, Spielberg. There you go. I saw that Blood and Guts Road 2 is there. That's gonna be cool. What's some random shit you'd want to see on the Vault channel? Anything FTR. For real though, any old WCW and Crockett stuff, especially the Crockett stuff, we're missing a lot of that stuff. Never made it to the network. Any kind of WCWC show and or house show stuff would be my priority. And of course, obviously the Tokyo tape, which we've discussed. But yeah. What's your favorite Clooney movie? Honestly, Burn After Reading might be the one seed. Oceans is great. I don't think there's any others to jump off the page. I would say Burn After Reading, because I also think George is like hysterical in that film. Long Legacy. I did do this briefly earlier, but I'll do it again quickly. I will not do any spoilers because, of course, first half spectacular, second half mixed bag was the way I felt about it. Really liked it though, and the atmosphere and the tension was superb. If Lashley swerved us and does MMA again instead, would you put Alex on a grin along to whatever fight ends up? Yes, that would be something we could do. We were actually going to do. Jackie mentioned doing. He mentioned doing the watch along for the Mike Perry fight, but then we found out it was on DAZN and it was like a pay per view, and that quickly everyone lost interest in the idea. But I would really like to do fight night watch alongs, like especially with them on streaming. It's so easy. So yeah, if Bob Lasher fought, we could do that. We could just do actual fight cards too, like especially if one of those paths that I choose is, we'll see. I'm seeing Pac in a 4-way with Ospreay and MJF. Maybe it feels like Ospreay and MJF's the singles match. I could be completely wrong. That's just what that's the buzz right now. If AEW ran Swerve and Hangman for the world title, what kind of match would you book? I don't see how you top the Texas Death. You can't top it, and that's why it's hard. I would say a cage match would make sense because last time there was interference. A cage match would be cool. And I think it goes without saying a dog collar match. Those are the two I would circle. Is Jay White finished as a top guy in wrestling? Unsure if he ever should have been one. No, but it will depend on the choices he makes for his future. I don't think he's going to be a top guy in AEW. And I've been consistent on this for a long time. And I think the way it came across, because the way the discourse was at the time, it felt like, I think people thought I was doing it in like an extreme way, and it wasn't my intention. I just think it's very apparent that they see him as a valuable piece, a guy who should be on TV a lot, but I don't think AEW see him as a top star. Now, everyone watching this is 80, apparently, according to StreamYard. Will agree or disagree with that. 40 of you may think he is one, 40 may not. I don't think they think he is one. So then the question becomes, is he content with that? And, does he feel satisfied with his usage? And he very well may. I mean, I don't know Jay White. I'm sure he's getting paid handsomely. His schedule's probably delightful. So he may be fine with that. If in a year or two he's to leave, I would never say he's finished as a top guy, because who knows what the WWE main event scene looks like in 2 years, right? What if all those guys I mentioned earlier have retired or have moved on? Suddenly, Jay White is a guy who has TV experience, main event polish, can talk, can wrestle, all of the above. So I would never kind of close the book on that, but it will be more dependent on his choice. I just don't think he's going to be one in AEW. And I could be wrong on that. That's based on what I've seen with the booking. So I hope that made sense. How do you think they'll do Big Rome's return? Don't really want to see him save Cody from a post-match beatdown. I actually think it will be. I kind of think it's going to be in the match, to be honest. Which may be worse from the Cody point of view, but I kind of think there's going to be a ref bump, and I kind of think that's what's going to happen. I could be wrong. I could see something where the question is, how do you protect Jacob in that? Like, I'm seeing a visual ref bump, Bloodline have Cody dead throughout, so then you hit Roman's music. Which, by the way, Roman's music is going to get like one of the craziest reactions. It's also a very funny theme to make a babyface save. He's definitely walking. I'm trying to think how you get Jacob out there, because I wouldn't want Jacob getting speared. Tama and Tanga can take spears. Tama's done great, but you don't have to protect him like that. I don't know. Interesting question, but I think it will be in the middle of the match, personally. And then Cody will, get the pin afterwards, and that'll be a whole debate about whether Cody got his spot taken and all that good stuff. Which is all healthy for the industry, because the fact you have two guys actually fighting for top spot is better than not having one in the top spot at all. Crowd will be huge for the solo match. I would go very heavy on like smoke and mirrors. I don't think they will. I think they should avoid at all costs like a 25-minute main event match. No, I don't think Solo sucks. I think Solo is fine, to be honest. I think he's been hurt a little bit by how restrictive his role has been in ring, because he's like, they've like limited what he does even more than what he already was. But I don't think he's a terrible wrestler. I just don't think he's an interesting enough wrestler to have a 20-minute main event match that hasn't got smoke and mirrors and bells and whistles. So I would sprinkle in some different stuff with that, personally. Now, granted, they just killed a couple baby faces that will be on Cody's team, so maybe not. Have you seen the Undertaker Execution match? I have. Poor old Terry Gordy was. We actually wanted to do a match from the post. I guess that last leg of his career. I guess it was almost a decade. Good God. He's very vacant, and it's very sad. Yeah, it's not very good, unfortunately. Foley's fun, of course, as always. All right. We're almost there. We've done a great job. We've accelerated. Thoughts on Liv, Rhea, Dom stuff, and when do you think the feud ends? Bad blood. Well, I think everyone's predicting a Dom turn, right? SummerSlam. I'm also predicting that. So I think with that in mind, they probably do extend it to a Bad Blood, and maybe even beyond that with Triple H's pacing, let's be real. That shit could be going on in December for all we know. Thoughts on it? I haven't seen a ton of it, to be honest with you. I've seen bits. Some of the things that they've done, I think, have been like... Some of it, to me, is like a good example of that WWE TV that I feel like they've only done well a handful of years. It reminds me a little bit of like some of the 2000 stuff. Other parts of it I'm less keen on, but I guess which. I think it's worked, right? Like, regardless of what I think or you think, it's definitely worked. And I think, if nothing else, the one thing I think that has been undeniable is it certainly seems to have given Liv an actual direction to go in as a character, which I think she was struggling with as a heel beforehand. So I think it's had positives, and it's definitely got over. We'll see what the matches look like, but I think it's going to be going on for a while yet, definitely. Hopefully, if it does get to a Bad Blood, they can get like a cool step match or something and get like I don't know. It'll be interesting. All right, what else have we got here? The Mike Perry fight was hilarious. He seemed to be blocking shots with his face instead of any sort of defensive play. It was crazy, dude. Absolutely crazy. Like, I thought Jake was going to win pretty early. Mike actually lasted longer than I thought. Just because like at this point, Mike's not a boxer, right? It's like that's the way my brain. Well, I was not ready for how Mike Perry's defense was going to look. Like, it was crazy, absolutely crazy. Tough son of a bitch, though. Very tough. Have you watched the G1 this year? I have not. I have got like a list of matches though that I do intend to circle back to at some point. Do you think the current division quality, lack of movement on the rumored negotiations with GYV and rumored loss of Motor City Machine Guns to WWE means TK has lost interest in tag wrestling? What do you think has changed? Great question. I don't know what. Yeah, the GYV thing is interesting because there was a report they were negotiating. Mostly Machine Guns thing, I don't know a lot about. It sounds like WWE based on everyone, but I don't know a lot about it. I guess the question would be, has TK lost interest in tag wrestling, or was it just more a case of it was the Bucks' baby beforehand? Because I actually think this has been an issue for a lot longer than people realize. I mean, those of you that, and I don't have an answer aware of this because it used to be a joke almost, but like, I used to always talk about the top heel tag team, right? Like, that was a huge thing that I'd circled as an issue. And I think you could argue that division has got thinner and thinner and weaker since the Bucks dropped the belts to the Lucha Bros, which I would assume is when the Bucks had less control over the kind of the way the division looked. Now I could be wrong on that. I could be giving them too much credit. I don't know, but it's been a gradual thing. I don't see it as a sudden change. I see it as something that we've seen coming and we haven't moved out of the way of. Like that's the way I view it. So yeah, I don't know. It's disappointing though because I love tag team wrestling and it isn't currently very healthy in the States. I know that the DIY match got over and did well, which is great, but like it isn't generally a hot thing in either company, which sucks. I think that's a great way for AEW to differentiate themselves, So yeah, not sure. I would like to know though. The Slammiversary watch along was great. Thank you. Would LNG be doing more old TNA watch alongs? Let me tell you. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the schedule here. I'll tell you what's coming up. Because I'm pretty sure yes, but I don't want to say yes and they'll be wrong. Yes. August 16th, we will be doing a Hard Justice 2006 watch along, which is the show where the Impact Zone caught on fire. Contrarian Alex was there for that show. So we're going to have him on the grid to watch the show. That'd be great. Then, not in September, because in September we're either doing Full Brawl 98 or WWF One Night Only. October we're doing Bound for Glory 09, which will kind of be an unofficial sequel to the Slammiversary one. So, there you go. Yes, we are. More retro grin-alongs, I think, in general. I think one of the big things that's a priority for me, if I'm not going to be getting paid handsomely to do this somewhere, just to be completely real, it's currently 11 o'clock here, and I can do this. I can't consistently do. I cannot consistently do the times I used to do, unfortunately. I regret saying that out loud. It feels like conceding. For a long time, I was immune to the obvious damage and wear and tear of staying up as long as I did. But like, it beat the hell. This last year, guys, it's been beating the hell out of me. So again, if I get paid handsomely to do something, sacrifice will be made because that's the game. If not, and it's something we're doing in-house and we're building our own thing, there'll be a lot earlier start times. I know that isn't great for all of you. The reason I bring this up is retro watch-alongs are great for that, right? Because we can create a community deal. We can all watch something together. We can watch something that, we can produce something that then you guys can watch whenever you want. I don't have to do it 4 a.m. to be live. So that's a huge thing. I think you'll see more of those. I think so. If WWE Freeze last year did not happen, do you think Jay White would be first world champ? I think Jay White would be first world champ, is what the comment says. I don't even think he'd be entangled. I think he'd be entangled in the Judgment Day stuff. I just feel that's where he would have ended up. I don't know if he'd win the belt, but he probably would have been used better. Just I think the brand split helps, right? Like I think there's I think even still on Raw, I think there's a lack of like actual star power. So yeah. Okay. Who would you like to see take on Gunther at the upcoming pay-per-views? Definitely need the Sammy rematch. That's easy business, right? Sammy beat him for the IC. Got to do the Sammy match. If the Finn match is good on TV, that'd be a cool rematch to do, especially in Berlin. I know everyone wants the Ilya match. Do that. Other than that, on Raw, maybe something with Ray Jr. Come on, hilarious there. Something with Ray Jr. again would be neat. There's a couple for you that come to mind. The Raw roster is actually pretty challenging in that regard, which will be an interesting task. Dude, I'm convinced this is gonna happen. I don't think Roman's running down that stage. I don't. That ramp. Uh, you and Monty going back and forward with Jay was seen at the top. That did roll, yes. Because we was not disagreeing, which is always the funniest. The funniest disagreements on podcasts is when there's not actually disagreement, or it's just a refusal to listen to one another. Great audio. That was very funny. Okay. Some fantasy booking in the chat of Big Rome's return, which I appreciate. I'm thinking the size of the SummerSlam card, you could do a 12 to 15-minute main event. Absolutely, you could, dude. Do a shootout. Have Solo hit a fucking spike in the first 90 seconds. Do something crazy. Get nuts with it. Break from the formula. Trust me, no one will be complaining when Roman's music hits. It'll be fine. For the Liv Rhea stuff, even I think with Hunter's booking, Liv is going to win this part of the feud. They'll take a break. Rhea wins the chamber and then run the match back at Mania. Dude, that would be very polarizing. I think. I'm not saying you're wrong because I don't watch it very closely, but that would be very polarizing indeed. I think Solo's best shot is him as a babyface. From the clips I've seen, he seems like a pretty cool personality, and people would cling to that. I'm all in on the pitch of Tape Machine's pitched it, and I'm all in on it, which is like the idea of Solo. As soon as he fouls, they just kick the ever-loving shit out of him. Like that's the pitch. I think I just love that idea. Like the idea that Solo is the guy who lets these lunatics in, and they just kill him at the first sign of trouble. Godly, I think. And then you can get back to me the baby, him trying to redeem himself, being back with the family. I don't know. It pops me very much. Very, very much. If the Mercy Machine Guns got a WWE, what matches are you looking forward to? I think Axeman Frazier would be good. I think the Profits would be good. I think New Day is a novelty thing that I think would probably still be a good match because all those guys can still go, even if it isn't like a big thing anymore. Other than that, do you know what would be cool? Like, it's just not something I'm like desperate for, but I think it'd be cool. That's the main ones, I think. Thank you. Appreciate it. On the topic of movement and retirement, I think there's so much money involved now that guys will wrestle later and later. They will. The old guys have more contracts in them and it freezes people out in the card. They will. The only thing is, I think you're going to see more and more part-time deals, which doesn't mean you're wrong because at WrestleMania that will still be prevalent, but I do think you're going to see guys be able to fill in gaps on TV. I think you're already seeing that on Raw with a guy like Braun, even a guy like Ilya, who's not getting wins, but is getting featured, right? Because Punk isn't going to be wrestling TV main events, not right now anyway. He might want to. So yeah, I think I think that's an interesting thing to follow. We got to bring back Joe Hulbert, Ross to depth charts. We do not, but I appreciate it. That killed the late night grin, dude. It's never coming back. How should Bad Blood look as a concept? A one cell match in the main event. Do not do the multiple cell thing. It just hurts the match. There's been some good ones that have been openers, but all it does is makes the main event job harder. It should just be the main event. But I definitely think the whole thing should be like blood feuds, right? You probably don't use those words. I know. Well, they might use them. They're using Bad Blood. What do I know? But I think you should definitely emphasize it on like a. They could even use their triple main event branding, hateful feuds, and maybe it's like Roman and maybe it's like Roman and Solo, maybe it's Punk and Seth, Cody and Randy, whatever it is. I could definitely see the Bad Blood, like them doing something with the Bloodline for that, and Roman and Solo and some of that whole shit. I could definitely see. But yeah. I just hope it does. I guess my answer really isn't a good one in the sense that I just hope it actually has a concept, an identity, and a personality. Those are the things I would love, but we'll see. Whether Operation Get Paid works or not, I hope for the best. Thank you. Do you plan on bringing back the Patreon or doing YouTube membership? Okay, so I have no problem just talking about this because, like, whatever. So when I say about two paths, these are the two paths basically. Andrew's circled them. This is basically where we're at. So it is the 23rd of July right now. When August starts, I will be running wild. I'll be pursuing a bunch of different opportunities. And even if no substantial opportunities come along, I intend to do guest spots on any podcast that in any way, shape, or form likes me or would like to talk to me. So if you have one of those, you're in luck. I intend to be doing them in the months of August and September. across that time, I'm hoping to to get an opportunity that is more sustainable, would reward my input and my kind of general approach to this. If that does not happen, we will be looking at the second part of your question here, your comment. It would not be Patreon, it'd be YouTube membership. Now, the thing I want to stress with this, and again, this may never happen, right? Who knows what's going to happen? If it does happen, I want to stress this. And I talked about this months back on one of these shows. It's probably the last one, actually, because that's not what we were talking about. It. If that thing is launched, I need you all to realize that it will not be done as like a. It's not something I'll take lightly, you know. The Late Night Grin, as I mentioned earlier, was on Patreon for 2 years, and it was $1 to get everything. And we used to do a 4-hour show on Friday and a daily show. I can't do that anymore. I can't put that work in for that amount anymore. But I bring that up to say, I don't take it for granted that if you're asking someone to pay money for wrestling fucking podcasting, it's got to be saying this, an effort. It's got to be an investment of time. So a YouTube membership is something that absolutely will happen if there's not a place for me in the media space that I can get paid well and can contribute at a higher level. And if it is, I think we've got some really cool stuff. I think there's some ideas already that are in place that I think would rule, and we would have different tiers and different options and different quirks. But there's already a bunch of stuff in place for that. We'll know by October is like my point of figuring out what we're going to do. So, yes, is the answer to this. And I'm excited about it, honestly. I'm really excited to have like a clear idea of what my approach is moving forward. So, I hope that made sense. And again, I promise you it will not be like a cheap cash grab thing. It'll be like, it's something I actually put a lot of time into, and it'll be a big part of my day, let alone week. So yeah, there's that. Here's a quote from me. I don't think the 2004 Raw mid-card being a top 2 heel is a sign of a healthy promotion. It's from back in 2022 is an all-time Hulbert quote. Little we know how good Christian would be back then. Who was the other one? Who was the other mid-card heel? Help me out, damn it. Sounds hilarious. But yes, Christian was quite Jericho, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Christian has had quite a good run, actually. Still a pretty beast line, though, right? There's a good one. Usos, Mercy Machine Guns. There's a good one. I have not seen the boys. Mania needs Io and Rhea. That would be fucking awesome. Their NXT title match is sick, dude. Honest Fortune, the King of Darkness Evil. I like him quite a lot as a never open weight clobberer. I did not like him very much when he got pushed beyond that, and his recent stuff. By recent, I mean the last couple of years. I haven't seen the G1 stuff, but that's been very unfortunate. Again, I hear he's done good in the G1, which is nice. It was a fun match. Warrior and Rude in the cage. Fun one. When are we getting the UFC Undisputed Free career mode playthrough? Anything is possible, brother. Anything is possible. You think Rhea losing to Liv hurts the idea of the Bianca Big Star clash? I know it might have been ideal to still have her be undefeated, but the Dom turn and Liv win with Big Star. I think you'd be fine. Yeah, I think you kind of probably have to do the Dom. The Dom thing is really hot and really, people are into it. So I think you probably got to roll with that for longer. Were you ever a big Taker guy? I see a lot of people seem split on him. I'm still pretty bullish on a lot of Taker stuff. I think Taker was very, very good. I understand why people don't like him. I co-sign a lot of the reasons, but unfortunately that's professional wrestling for you. It's hard to like a lot of people in those departments. As a wrestler, I do think he was a very good professional wrestler. I think very smart worker, very, very smart. Very good at a lot of his stuff with the big guys doesn't rate well, but if you actually watch the matches, you can see that he does do a good job of maximizing his opponents often. Best he can. He's never going to be a Shawn Michaels that bounces around the ring, but he would try, man. He really, really would. And I think he has some great, great matches along the way. You look at a Kurt Angle match, look at the matches with Shawn, both from the 90s and the 2000s. Even a match like Flair at WrestleMania 18, I think that's a great Taker performance when Flair was not really in best of form. He's got some really, really good stuff. The Foley feud's great. So yeah, I'm a fan. Again, I understand why people aren't, but we shall see how that take develops through the years and time. It's changed a lot. Taker and Sting have flipped, so we'll see where everyone's feeling in like 5 years. Maybe Sting will start a podcast. God, I hope not. Are you listening on Saturday after Ibu's evil comments when everybody's? I was not listening. No, I saw your tweet about it, but I was not listening. Joe, who do you think has the biggest upside in WWE? Delta, Julia, Stephanie. I go Steph. I haven't seen Delta. I talked about this a little bit earlier, Kirby, but I'm kind of more. I'm more confident in Stephanie's ability to adjust, just on gut feeling. I could be completely wrong, but just on gut feeling. Yeah, I'm the word on Braun is that he's definitely slowed down. Unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of his stuff since he came back, but the big fellas, he gets tough, man. When they start getting up there in age and they've worked a lot of matches, the knees, they slow down a lot. It's a shame. Recently saw on the Noah show of AJ, we saw Jake Lee with the War Dogs, joining the War Dogs. I've never really seen any of his stuff. Is he any good? No, he's not. Favorite film of a grappler is the lead. Probably They Live. Probably. I did think Batista was great in Knock at the Cabin. I know that film wasn't for everyone. I actually quite liked it. There's another one. He's very good in that. I don't know if he's quite the lead, but I mean, he's there or thereabouts. What's your dream blunt rotation? I can't. This is a great question. It's like the one we got on the grim where someone said, like, which wrestlers would you have on or hang out with? And it's like I'm now at a point where I can't answer it without just exposing my business. Very unfortunate. I don't know. I'll say, who can I say that won't get me like expose my business? I don't know. Good question though. Chat, you throw some answers at base. He deserves good answers for this, and I'm being a coward and don't want to put my shit out there. Joe, do you think Final Boss could be seen at War Games? I'm gonna say yes, but like, you know, it's one of those beliefs I see it, if I'm being honest with myself. I mean, it does sound ridiculous, doesn't it, if we're being real? Is Tetsuya Naito absolutely cooked in your opinion, or does he still have one really good Wrestle Kingdom main event left in him? I mean, I'm sure he could pull something out of the dome, but I think he's fucked, to be honest with you. I actually think he's like, I don't want to be dramatic, but it is what it is. I kind of think he's like in danger, if I'm being real. I actually think it's quite concerning, especially with his eye situation. I think I'm not sure he should be wrestling, to be honest. But I mean, it's not my choice, and I'm sure he doesn't give a fuck what I think. But I find him to be quite a concerning watch at this point, in fear of being dramatic. It is what it is. Okay. Dave mentioned like 3 weeks ago that Gallows and Anderson, speaking of blunt rotations, being in NXT so much seems like bad news. Do you think it's more so AJ's in a feud and they really like NXT? They're on SmackDown this week. I didn't see Dave's quote, but I think it all depends on like what happens when AJ comes back, right? If AJ comes back to TV and they're not involved, like that ain't a good sign, no doubt about it. Because the reality is I think they're doing a really good job in NXT, but like if Dave's point was that, they're getting paid very well to be in NXT, then I understand what he's saying. I'd imagine they'll be with AJ when he comes back. But if they're not, then yeah, there's something to look at there. But I mean, ultimately, they've been back for like just shy of 2 years, and it's been a hilarious run in that really they've hardly been in the rotation, right? Like they came back with AJ, and AJ got hurt, which kind of killed their intended role. They disappeared as a result. And then by the time AJ came back, the way they wanted to push him, it was better he not have the Good Brothers. So it's been a weird one. they have done what they do best, which is get paid consistently. So God bless them. We'll see how it goes. But I think they're doing good stuff in NXT, and I think the NXT locker room is really thrilled to have them around. So that's all you can do, right? It's on Who Killed WCW. Watched it with friends, and we laughed the entire time. It was fucking hilarious. I mean, I just love the WCW story. I could watch the actual story be told 101 times over. I just love it. I think it's fascinating. It's one of the best wrestling stories ever. Is it overdone? Yes. Is it beast? Yes. Um, I think the fourth episode was disappointing. And I also think I actually do get why they were kind of favorable to Bischoff, because I do think there's a lot of elements that you can only be favorable to him. But there was also a lot of stuff that they were like way, way too kind. Like the big drop from 98 to 99 is like, that's really what kills the company, to be honest. I mean, the beauty of it is for Bischoff is Russo is such a buffoon that he just makes himself the heel. But the truth is, it was gone. By the time Russo gets there, it's over already. They've lost, and the merger's going to happen and they're going to be gone. He just accelerates it because, of course, he does. But yeah, it's a tough story to tell. I thought in some elements they did good. In some places they did very poorly. The craziest one, I don't know if anyone talked about this or tweeted about it, but they should have. Dude, the way that they presented the Radicals leaving was fucking insane. Like, the way they presented it is like they just left because they were upset Russo wasn't booking anymore. It had nothing to do with Russo booking. It was because Kevin Sullivan was booking, and the obvious reason why Benoit didn't want Kevin Sullivan booking him, right? Like, that was so weird, I thought. I get wanting to not relitigate that whole thing, but like, it was just weird. To me, it was just a strange disconnect. And that was like a strangely flattering moment for Russo, I thought. But yeah, it's also hard with they talk about how the executive didn't like wrestling, and it's like the problem with that is they pick the story up at a point where you can't really explain why. The executives had a lot of reason to dislike wrestling. Like, wrestling got them in a lot of fucking lawsuits and a lot of trouble and did a lot of dumb shit on its TV. Like, of course they didn't like wrestling by that point. You gotta remember that Bischoff takes over 4 years into the ownership. So yeah. But I enjoyed it. I love that stuff. It wasn't perfect by any means. It had major issues, but it was very funny. And Booker T was actually great on it, which was a great surprise. So, how much content we get out of the Jimmy Uso return pop? I genuinely can't wait. I've expected it on like 4 different episodes now. It's kind of been kicking the shit out of me, I have to say. Does Gabe Kidd have a huge future in New Japan for you? And if not, does he have one in the States? My biggest discovery of the last year. In my opinion, the War Dogs faction has helped him a lot. I think he absolutely does. I don't know. He's someone that if New Japan is healthy enough to make it happen, he should stay there for a while. I think he can be a real player there. And I think you look at the Kaito match in Noah, and it shows you what he can do as a main event guy, GN. So, yeah. I think he has a huge future in New Japan. Could he do it in the States? Yes. I don't think the timing's right to look at that for a long time, though. I think he should really focus on being a real attraction there. He's doing really good. Sometimes I think he needs a little bit more range to what he does, but he's very good at, he knows who he is ultimately, and he's very good at that. So he's doing great. Right, we're winding down here, folks. I am 5 minutes behind, which is about right. You feel the loss of Sting is a big part of the charm disappearing in AEW? Yes, but that says more about Sting than AEW, right? Sting, it was very special what Sting had there, and I think no one can replace that. That's just, you have to move on, right? It's very, very difficult. Sting was very, very special, and he kind of meant, there was a whole symbolism and a spirit to Sting that I think was very powerful and what he represented in the industry. So yeah. What's the best movie you've seen in cinema streaming this year? Probably, again, even with the issues I have with it, I think Long Legs is still probably the best 2024 release I've seen. I actually really liked, and I wasn't expecting to, but I really liked the Bike Riders. And it seems to have really split people. Like the people I saw it with were totally divided on it, but I actually thought it was very strong. They're probably my top 2 2024 releases thus far. I haven't loved The Offering, but those will be my top 2, I think. Who is the better wrestler right now, Gunther or Ospreay? Man, straight for the heavy hitters, huh? Gunther or Ospreay? Well, they're very different wrestlers, firstly, right? Very, very different wrestlers. I prefer watching Gunther, but Gunther's, if you talk about their value to a wrestling roster, it feels like Gunther's role is much more a single lane than Ospreay's. You know? I think Gunther he's going to be a particular kind of heel. I think Ospreay can actually go on either side of that. He's obviously so over in AEW, he's going to be a babyface. But Ospreay has wrestled as a heel for much of his career, and a lot of people say he's incredibly unlikable doing it. So, I think he's more, I guess, dependent on your roster, you can do more things with him, I guess. Obviously, Ospreay is the more spectacular, the more thrilling. Gunther is very, very steady. I think Gunther is very good at fitting guys into his match in a way that's logical and makes sense. I think Ospreay can sometimes be a victim of overly extending himself in that regard. Like I think some matches he has where he wants to make a guy, and I think he actually goes so far trying to make them that he actually does the opposite, and he kind of exposes their limitations by giving them too much. Gunther avoids that, and he's much smarter in that regard. So I prefer Gunther, but again, if you need like a show stealer main event, I think there actually is a lot of reason to argue for Ospreay, especially in a big setting. He's more blinding, right? He's more like wow. I think you've actually seen with Gunther, and I think Gunther's amazing, but I think you've seen on some of the bigger WWE shows where that has actually been like a little bit of an issue. I think of like a Drew match at SummerSlam, or even the Riddle match I saw in London. Sometimes he can be not too dry, but I think he can be more mechanical for that audience. I think for a big room where the physicality is less obvious because you're in a big room, I think that can be something he's going to have to, and as world champion, he'll have to navigate that if he's closing shows and such. So I got Gunther, but I hope I explained it in a way that was fair to both grapplers. I hope so. Do you think WWE fumbled Dijak? No. No, I do not. But good luck to him. You guys are talking about best TV workers of all time Sunday. Is AJ on the shortlist? Him and Ray are... Yeah, AJ would probably be on there, yeah. AJ, Ray, Christian, On Anderson, I think Sheamus. There's a handful of guys there that would immediately come to mind. Finley was great. Regal was great. Good call, Josh. Good call. Which wrestler's job would you like to have? Big LG, Tangaloa, or Colio? Tangaloa is an absolute... He's breaking records in that regard. An absolute beast. Incredible, really. Thoughts on Doom Part 2? I have not seen Doom Part 1 or 2, unfortunately. Big Joe, do you ever get wrestling fatigue? If so, how do you deal with it? I get fatigue for individual wrestling moments, eras, shows, wrestlers. Right now, I have a lot of fatigue for the modern stuff because I was watching with the match guide really kind of exhausted me in that regard. Because you see the style and how like homogenized it is, and a lot of it's great. But if you watch a lot of it, the way I was watching it, it did run thin. But I'm never burnt out on wrestling as a medium. I'm burnt out on styles of wrestling, promotions. I think there's a difference there. So if I'm burnt out with something in wrestling, I will still want to watch wrestling. I'll just watch something different. And I try and bounce around. And there's a million and one blind spots that I'd like to finally fix. And maybe if we do a LNG membership, that'd be something we could do, right? I'd love to watch more Lucha. New Japan's history, I'm so. I've only seen like certain classics. I haven't seen it. Really, haven't got context on it. So the beautiful thing about wrestling, it's the same as music or film in that way. There's always something to watch. There's always something to watch. Like last week, I just didn't want to watch the MJF Ospreay match. Not because I thought it would suck. I actually don't think it. I'm almost certain it was something I would have enjoyed in some ways, but I just didn't have the appetite to watch it. And instead, I found myself watching like a Saturday night's main event, just because that's what I felt that day. In the same way that I may not want to watch the new 3-hour epic movie, I may want to watch fucking, My Cousin Vinny or something, You, to me, it's, I think a healthy wrestling diet is one with variety, to me anyway. That's the way I approach it. What would you have open the biggest party of the summer? Good question. Honestly, I think Dame Priest and Gunther is one to look at there. Actually, I think that would do them a favor because there's so much star power elsewhere spread across weird matches. I think I'd be tempted to do that. Trying to think of any other. Sammy and Braun would be a good one too. Any more movies coming out this year that you plan on seeing or excited? Dude, the new M Night picture. That's fucking the one with the the one with the killer who goes to a concert with his daughter. It looks absolutely absurd. I need to see it desperately. That one immediately comes to mind. Thoughts on the Bullet Club War Dogs as a whole? I think it's better than what the group was with Jay White. Anyway, I don't think Finlay could be a world champ. People hate on him way too much wrestler. I think he's a good wrestler. I think Bullet Club War Dogs has actually revitalized Bullet Club as a brand quite a bit. Actually, yeah, I think it's done a good job. When they went in the direction initially of the guys they were going with, I was like, I think this thing is done, being a dead horse. And I think they have given it a new personality in there. But what's interesting is their version of Bullet Club is actually much closer to the original Bullet Club than we'd had for a long time, right? So I think it's a good marriage of kind of new and old in that way. I think it's been very successful. I think they should actually be really proud of what they've achieved with that because I remember when they shot the angle, I remember thinking, good luck, fellas. But I think they've made it a thing again, which is cool. Darby is a great TV wrestler, yes. Marcus brings up, shout Marcus. Darby's TV wrestler case just off the fuse that revitalized people's runs in AEW, specifically Joe. Yeah, that match he had on Saturday was killer, guys. You didn't see that collision match. What a terrific match, around 12 minutes. I thought it was just tremendous. Darby Allin is the most reliable, most consistent wrestler in the promotion. Maybe in the whole States, scene right now, really. He's just tremendous. Are you all in for Dolph's TNA World title? I'm not, but I'm, God bless. Good for him. Got a good reaction on the finish, I thought. Okay. LA and Logan would be a good opener, yeah. That's actually probably the right pick. They need a crowd for that. Who does AJ feud with upon his return in the Federation? Not a lot of top babyfaces on SmackDown. I think it has to be Andrade, dude. It has to be Andrade. Granted, I'm just telling myself that, but I'm all in on this Andrade feud. Gotta be. I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, but I'd rather see Mox go back to WWE at this point. Seems like he's done everything. I get it. I understand the appeal of the Shield. That will always be there. I think there's always going to be an appeal to that. I don't know. To me, with Mox, it's less about where he is and more of like what mood he's in and what mode he's in. I'm not really like too keen on this recent version of him. Wherever he goes, it'll be the same. But I do get the point. I think there's still stuff we're doing AEW. It's more just that like he hasn't really done feuds, To me, it's less promotion, less setting, and more just his approach. But that's just me. Is it too late for Eddie Kingston to win the big one? It feels like the big one is going to be the Continental, the C1, C2, whatever we call it, C2, Continental Classic. I mean, that's going to be his big one. When they did that, it kind of told me that's the way they were viewing it. And look, he's exceeded every expectation. I think there was a moment there in 2021, 2022 where he could have. I do think there was a missed window there. I'll always feel that way. But he's not someone that I'm like, there are some guys that had a missed window that never recovered. Eddie, he's Eddie, right? Like he just does what he does. But yeah, I think the big one for him was probably the tournament win. Also, Joe Hendry. Honestly, I've only seen a couple matches. I don't really find the shtick funny, but I can't speak on him as a wrestler. Do you think Cody will ever turn? I feel like he has no desire to ever be a heel again. I don't actually know. I don't think he ever turns. I do not. All right, we have 5 minutes, guys. The last 5 minutes. Speaking of C2, who would you put in this year's? Big additions that I would make, because like obviously a lot of the tournament's going to be similar faces, you'd imagine. It'd be sick if they could get Ishii like they have for this upcoming stretch. It'd be cool if they could get him for 6 weeks or so. That'd be neat. I think it'd be great to see Joe in there, who was obviously in the World's Title program last year when they did this. I would also look at, I want to say Hangman wasn't in it, right? Am I wrong? He definitely wasn't in it. I'm tripping. Hangman should be in it. If he wasn't in it last time, I'm pretty sure he wasn't. Hangman, Joe. Obviously, you're going to have Ospreay in there. Those feel like the big three. By the way, Samoa Joe and Will Ospreay would be pretty cool, I think, personally. He was out for that pay-per-view cycle, that's right, because he lost at Full Gear. Yeah, that makes sense. Swerve wasn't it, which is why I was confused, because Swerve, Jay, and Mox was like the three. Roddy Strong was a great call. Yep, Darby. My God, I thought Darby wasn't in there. Dude, they've barely scratched the surface with the Continental Classic. That thing could get better and better. That sounds awesome. All right. Kyle O'Reilly, yep, absolutely. It would be cool to see a similar little guy. Yeah, I agree. All right. What else we got here? Yeah, if Mox does leave AEW, guys, I think Jake's more in the. I think he'll just do like wacky stuff, maybe his own thing. I don't think he's super excited to be part of the TV landscape at the moment. All right, Andrew's right, guys. You should like this video because it's been 2 hours and 7 minutes, which is hilarious. I swear I actively said I wasn't going to go this long. With Judgment Day probably ending at SummerSlam, do you think they've done enough to be a Hall of Fame faction? Dude, that's a great question. I mean, in terms of their run, they have, right? Because like the reality is they've been like the main thing on Raw for like 2 years. So yes, the big question would be, because you never can predict these things, is it something that like will stick? Will it become part of like the fabric of WWE's modern history? One of the big things that I think they've done well with this regime, and they've beat you over the head with the new era stuff, and I get it's annoying, but I think it's actually really important to their success. They've actually done a job of marketing this era as like the era, right? It's not about the history anymore. Like, yeah, The Rock's come back, but The Rock was a new thing when he came back. They're more focused on today than they've been in about 20 years. So with that in mind, because this has been a boom, I think they may actually become like a very celebrated piece of WWE history, which is pretty fucking hilarious in some ways, but I think it's also deserved. I think they've done a great job with it. I'm kind of fascinated by how those things happen, you know? Like, because really, this is the hottest they have been as a company in like many, many years. And so there is stuff from the prior decade that was really excellent, and you can tell it's already been forgotten. In theory, that shouldn't be the case anymore. We'll see if it is or not. Judgment Day should be a Hall of Fame faction, though, based on their run, which is a hilarious sentence, but I think it's true. You think the back-to-back days could hurt or help AEW? You think it helps the ratings but hurts the bookings? Too much for Tony having to book all 3 shows in 30 hours instead of 2 days off. I think it's, yeah, if it is Thursday for Collision, I think that'll be very challenging, to be honest. And I actually think, I'm not big on AEW and a brand split. I actually think that may force you to, I mean, 2 straight days is like, yeah, I don't know. Very difficult. Very, very difficult. Probably true. Probably true. The Triple H, if Triple H is the helm, they probably will be like the new Horseman. All right, there we go. We're done. 2 hours and 10 minutes. Folks, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm hoping next week to do a hang-in with Hulbert. Hopefully I can book here, boo. We'll talk about wrestling for a bit like we always do. And yeah, I think that's everything. We talked about a lot of stuff here. I hope I made sense when I discussed, even briefly. Probably wasn't very brief. I don't do brief very well, clearly. But when I discussed Operation Get Paid, I hope it made some sense, and I hope everyone understands where I'm coming from, and I don't sound like a lunatic or an egotist. I mean, bro, I probably do sound like both of those, but you can still understand where I'm coming from, right? But That's what's coming up, folks. On the first day of August, we're going to see what's out there. If you're watching this, I need you to smash the retweet when I do that. By the way, when I put it out there, when I'm swinging for the fences, I need you guys to be with me because it'll be very, very helpful. I think. I hope anyway. And if not, if there's no room at the inn, we'll just do it ourselves, right? That's why we've always done things around here. So I'm excited, very optimistic. Again, hanging with Hulbert. This Friday, we're back for the Grin. We're doing a post show for Death Before Dishonor. I'm not like it may become a watch along. I don't actually know yet. I think it's gonna be a review though. I think it's gonna be a review. It could be a very long show, so we might be on very late. But whenever Ring of Honor ends, we'll be reviewing it. That'll be the late night Grin 119 maybe next week SummerSlam. And then eventually we'll get to that Hard Justice show I was talking about earlier. But either way, that's all stuff to worry about over on the Late Night Grim, which is obviously not associated with this very channel. Here is the very funny photo that we have as a thumbnail this time. Thanks for joining me. Like the video, subscribe. Also, comment below. Comment below helps me out a lot. Thank you very much. All right. Have a great night. Enjoy NXT. Enjoy Dynamite, Blood and Guts, all that good stuff. And as always, thanks for the house. Speak soon, folks.